You were born exactly once, and it was almost certainly the most dangerous experience of your entire life. And you don't remember a single second of surviving it. If you were born recently in a hospital, there was an epidural for the pain, a monitor on the heartbeat, a surgeon down the hall. No epidural, no monitor, no surgeon down the hall, just your mother, the pain, and whoever happened to be in the room. This is 40,000 years ago, and outside that shelter, there was nothing else for miles. And the stakes were about as high as they could possibly get. If the birth had gone wrong, even once in your family's unbroken line, you would simply not exist to watch this right now. And here's the strangest part. The danger was never really about the pain. It was about who, exactly, was allowed to be in that room with her. This is Knock. Tonight, his sister is giving birth, and every person in the camp has a job to do. Nobody in this camp believes birth is something a woman should face by herself. One woman boils water. Another keeps the fire fed. The oldest woman in camp has done this more times than anyone can count. And it turns out biology agrees with them in a way scientists only fully understood in the last century. Compared to almost every other animal on Earth, human childbirth is strangely, uniquely difficult. Millions of years ago, your ancestors started walking upright on two legs. Walking upright meant a narrower pelvis, better built for balance than for delivering a baby. At the same time, your ancestors' brains and their babies' heads kept getting bigger. Two evolutionary trends collided head-on, and human birth was caught right in the middle. In 1992, anthropologist Karen Rosenberg described this collision as the obstetrical dilemma. For a modern human baby, the fit through the birth canal is almost impossibly tight. No other great ape squeezes a head that large through an opening that small. A newborn chimpanzee's brain is already about 40% of its adult size. A human newborn's brain is closer to 25%. In other words, human babies are born earlier and far less developed, almost as an evolutionary compromise. More recent researchers have questioned parts of Rosenberg's original story, refining exactly why the fit is so tight. But everyone still agrees on the basic problem. For humans, birth was never going to be easy. Watch a chimpanzee give birth, and you'll see something humans almost never get to do. Her baby is born facing her, so she can simply reach down and guide it out herself. Because of the shape of the human pelvis, your baby's head has to rotate to get through. And when a human baby is finally born, it almost always comes out facing away from its mother, which means the mother physically cannot reach down, see the baby's face, or guide it out alone. In 1987, anthropologist Wenda Trevathan proposed this is exactly why humans evolved to need help. Trevathan had spent years watching primates give birth, and one detail about humans kept standing out. She called it the cooperative childbirth hypothesis, a birth attendant clearing the airway, catching the baby, checking for a wrapped cord. Ethnographic records from traditional societies also show women rarely gave birth lying down. Squatting, kneeling, or sitting supported by others was far more common. Here's the part that changes everything. That help wasn't kindness layered on top of biology. It was built into biology itself, millions of years before anyone wrote a single word about medicine. Which means somewhere in your family line, a woman has always had someone else in the room. Not because it was gentle, because without it, that line would have simply ended. Even Ash seems to understand something is different about tonight. And this need for help may go back even further than modern humans. Go back far enough to ancestors like the famous Lucy, and their much smaller brain babies were probably born far more easily. In 2009, researchers Tim Weaver and Jean-Jacques Hublin virtually rebuilt the pelvis of a Neanderthal woman. Her name in the fossil record is Tabun 1, found in a cave in what is now Israel. Her reconstruction showed Neanderthal birth was likely about as difficult as it is for you today. But her baby's head didn't need to rotate the way a modern human baby's does. That rotating facing away pattern of birth seems to have evolved sometime in just the last 3 or 400,000 years, meaning even a completely different kind of human, tens of thousands of years before Knock, still needed someone else in the room. Help during birth isn't a modern convenience. It might be one of the oldest habits our species has. Even with every hand doing its job, there was no guarantee the night would end well. Sometimes, even with every hand in the room, birth still went wrong. Thousands of years after Knock's time, beside a lake in Siberia, archaeologists found proof of exactly that. In 2012, researcher Angela Lieverse studied a grave holding a woman buried with 2 tiny infants. The grave was roughly 7,700 years old, among the oldest twin burials ever documented. One baby had been positioned feet first for delivery, a pattern doctors today still consider high risk. Lieverse analysis suggests labor became obstructed, and neither the twins nor their mother survived. But her community still buried her and her twins together carefully with evident care. Today, a case exactly like that one would very likely be treated safely with a routine cesarean section. It's a sobering reminder that all that help in the room still couldn't guarantee an ending like this one, which is probably exactly why ancient communities treated childbirth as too important to leave to chance. Quick thought, right in the middle of all this, before we keep going. If you've been born 40,000 years ago, how many people do you think would have been in the room? Anthropologists studying hunter-gatherer societies around the world have found the same pattern again and again. Almost no documented traditional society treats birth as something a woman should face completely alone. Different continents, different climates, different tools, and yet somehow the same instinct. Don't leave her by herself. Inside Knock's shelter, that same instinct is playing out exactly the way it always has. And then, finally, a sound cuts through the tension that changes everything in the room. A baby's first cry, and just like that, the entire camp breathes out at once. In many documented hunter-gatherer groups, the mother then rested for days, sometimes weeks, cared for entirely by other women. Knock steps inside for the first time tonight, and Ash squeezes in right behind him, tail wagging. Now, fast forward to tonight, wherever and whenever you're watching this. You have ultrasounds, painkillers, sterile rooms, and surgeons who can step in within minutes. Modern medicine has made childbirth dramatically safer than it was for most of human history, and that part is genuinely worth being grateful for. But here's the part researchers keep finding, even now, surrounded by all of that technology. In 2024, researcher Zaneta Thayer and her team studied emotional support during childbirth and found something almost nobody expected. Even with every monitor and medication available, women still consistently want one specific thing the most: another person close, paying attention only to them. 40,000 years apart, and the one thing that hasn't changed is the hand someone reaches for. Different tools, different rooms, same exact need, wired into you before you ever had a name for it. So maybe cooperative childbirth was never really about medicine at all. Maybe it was the very first proof that humans were never meant to survive completely alone. Every single person who has ever existed, including you, arrived into this world through exactly this. Most animals in nature give birth completely alone, hidden, silent, unassisted. Humans are one of the rare exceptions. An unbroken chain of women helping women, going back further than writing, further than farming, further than fire itself might go. Which means the very first thing that ever happened to you, before anything else, was somebody showing up. Not because you asked, not because you'd earned it yet, just because that's what humans do for each other. So the real danger in ancient childbirth was never really about surviving pain alone. It was about whether enough people would show up in time to make sure you didn't have to. And 40,000 years ago, in a small firelit shelter, exactly enough people did. By morning, the whole camp will already be treating this as just another day, quietly, the way it always has been. That's the whole quiet miracle hiding underneath every single birth story, including your own. So, how did ancient humans survive childbirth? Not with medicine you'd recognize, and not entirely by luck either. They survived it the way humans have always survived the hardest things. Together, in the same room, on purpose. Same human, different world. If you'd been born in that shelter 40,000 years ago, who do you think would have been holding your mother's hand? Drop your guess in the comments. We genuinely want to know. Next time, we're following Nox Tribe through something almost as dangerous, a season when the food simply runs out. Until then, take a second and remember, somebody showed up for you too.